Alright, welcome back to the GISC 1336 Lecture 2 Practicum. We're going to be picking up from our first video, and we're going to be at Part 11, Change Point Group Display. So let's go ahead and get into that. So again, we're going to want to open up Drawing 11. Alright, and then the next thing we want to do is come over to our tool space. Make sure you're on the Prospector tab. Let's go ahead and expand point groups. There we go. And then we see our all points group here. Let's go ahead and right click, hit properties. And then we can see here there's no point label style currently assigned to it. There are the default ones, but maybe none of these are what we want. So we're going to come over here and we're going to go ahead and click this drop down menu and hit create new. What this is going to do is create a prompt for us to create a new label style. So let's go ahead and change this label style name to display order change. Alright, once that's done, we're going to go over to layout, and then we're going to start with point number, and we're going to change point number to be called display order change. Alright, and then we're going to leave its visibility as true. We're going to leave our anchor points and components the same. But what we are going to do is we're going to come here under text, contents. We're going to go ahead and click in that cell and then hit the 3 ellipses button. And that's going to open up our text component editor. And first thing we're going to want to do is select all of this information, delete it, and go ahead and type in display order change. Then we can say OK. I'm going to go ahead, and then we see the change that's occurring over here, but maybe we don't want such small text. So we're going to change our text height under the text section from 1/10 of an inch to a full inch. You can see here it's much larger text now. But we have our other 2 text or label components. So we're going to go to those, starting with point elevation. And we're just going to change its visibility to false. We're going to do the same thing, coming over to point description, set its visibility to false. Now we see we don't have those other components, and we just have our display order change. So go ahead and hit apply, OK. And then we see that the new label style we created, display order change, is automatically going to be assigned to our all points point group. So go ahead and hit apply and OK there. And then we're going to want to zoom in to one of our points. So let's zoom into point 5. We can right click on it from the tool space preview, hit zoom to. It's going to take us down to zoom point 5. We're going to see this doesn't have our display order change symbol on it. This looks more like the ground shot symbol or label style that we created previously. So why is that? Well, we can see over here in the tool space under our point groups that ground shots is above all points. And what that essentially is implying is a drawing order. So Civil3D is going to draw your label styles based on the order within these point groups. So clearly we want to change that. So let's go ahead and right click on point groups. We'll go to properties. We see a list of all of our 2 point groups. So just go ahead and click all points, and then you can either move it up one at a time, or if you had more point groups, you can hit the up white arrow with the line above it to go all the way to the top of all the groups. Hit apply, and then go ahead and hit OK. Now immediately we see there was a change to this label style here. But in point groups, notice or take note that all points is above GS. Now we have our display order change label style visible for our Kogo points. So this label style clearly was just intended to show you the change. So let's go ahead and go back into point groups, properties, and let's move all points back down to the bottom, apply OK, and then when we zoom back in to our Kogo point 5, we see that change back to the GS label style. So after we've completed that, let's go ahead and pan up to survey points, or calculated points, excuse me. So we see here point 3002. It has our what is this, point number, raw, full label description or label style. So maybe we don't want it to use that anymore. So we're going to go to point, or under point groups, all points, right click, come over to properties, go to overrides, and then on point label style, go ahead and check it and make sure that the override is set to display order change. Go ahead and hit apply, okay, and here we are. We see that change to display order change, and that's how you can successfully apply an override if individual points have their own styles set to them within a point group. Now again, we have all points now listed underneath GS in our drawing order. So if I come back down to that point, that ground point, we're going to see, hey look, it did not update, it's not being overridden simply because of the drawing order. As we've already seen a few times, we can go ahead and shift those around, and then we're going to see that change in drawing order. So that concludes part 11, changing point group displays. We went over drawing orders for labels as well as our ability to override labels on our points. All right, moving on. All right, this is going to be part 12 of Lecture 2 Practicum, Introduction to the Surveying Tools. What we're going to be doing on this part is just setting up all of our file paths to make sure that our survey data, our project, is going to be going to the right location as we build things out. So let's go ahead and open up Drawing 12. Then in the tool space, let's go down to the Survey tab. Then we're going to want to come up here, and you're going to have this icon in the top left. It's going to say click here to edit survey user settings. Go ahead and open that up. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to scroll down to import defaults. And we're going to want to make sure that insert figure objects is checked to say yes, and that insert survey points is not checked where it says no. If you're using a different version of Civil3D, this might say be a yes checkbox, and if that's the case, make sure it is set to yes. They just updated that because by default, you're going to want to bring in survey points. All right. That's all you need to worry about for your import defaults. We have our standard graphics here, so your different common colors utilized, throughout the programs for different things, whether it's backsides, foresides, baselines, so on and so forth. Then we're going to want to go ahead and work on getting our file paths set up for our database. So right now, everything is set to a default database for the application. We want to set it up for our project. In your data folder, there should be a database file. So go ahead and click this Browse button on Survey Database Settings path. And what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to navigate to where you have all of your Lecture 2 data located. So I have mine on OneDrive. I'm going to go to that. I'm going to go into it, and then you should have a folder called Survey. Once you get to it, don't open the Survey folder, just click on it. You'll see down here that it now says Folder Survey, and then hit Select Folder. And what that's done is it's updated the path for our survey database settings to go to that database file. We're going to do the same thing for equipment defaults. Linework processing defaults, and our figure defaults. Now I told y'all that I have all my stuff located on OneDrive, And for the purpose of these labs, that's not going to be an issue. But if you're working on an actual project or a job, you're not going to want to have all of this stuff being actively used on OneDrive unless you have your OneDrive folders set to ensure that they are going to always exist on your machine. The reason for that is you can have breaks in connection whenever you're trying to process things or create new data or whatnot, as it's trying to constantly synchronize, from the cloud to your local machine. So for larger projects, maybe instead of doing all of this, storing your survey databases on a cloud drive, store it locally, and then when you've completed a project, then you can back things up to a cloud. Just somewhere that you can run into random issues, locked files, and such. So once we have our survey database defaults, equipment defaults, Linework processing defaults, and figure defaults all set to our database file for this part, go ahead and click OK. And then the last thing that we need to do is go back into that survey tab where it says Survey Databases, right click, go ahead and hit Set Working Folder. And then one more time, we're going to navigate to the location of that database file, select folder, and now all of the work that we do is by default going to go into that folder. With that, you've now set up your surveying tools, and we're going to be able to start working on some new things. That concludes part 12. Alright, this is part 13, working with Linework code sets. So go ahead and start by opening up Drawing 13. Once you have that open in your tool space, come down to the Survey tab. Then we're going to want to go and identify our Linework code sets. Go ahead and expand that. Then on Essentials, right-click it, and then click Edit. So what this is going to do, it's going to show us all of our existing Linework code sets. So this is going to be the stuff that is utilized for field to finish work. So we have a lot of common codes that are utilized. So beginning, continue, end, close, different offsets, different line segment codes and curve segment codes that we use commonly in surveying. So go ahead and take a review of those, and you don't need to change anything. We kind of move that off to the side. Then the next thing that you're going to need to do is open up File Explorer and navigate to where you have your data for this course or for this lecture. And there you should have all your drawings. You have the survey folder. Go ahead and open up that folder. And then in that folder, you're going to have toposurvey.txt. Open up that text file. So what this is a point list of a bunch of different topo shots. And we can see we have our northing, eastings, elevations, and then our point descriptions. So we can kind of take a look at some of these and then compare them to our existing Linework code sets. So we see we have beginning, then we have begin curve, so it's a line until we get to this point, and at this point we're starting a curve, we end the curve, then we have a new beginning, straight line comes down, new curve, so on and so forth. We're going to see how these codes that we collect or that we input in the field when we're collecting our data are going to tie in to these Linework code sets. So we don't need to make any changes to anything at this time, but we do see kind of how code sets work and how field to finish kind of gets going. Your office that you work for, or if you become a RPLS yourself and become your own employer in the future, you might decide to use different code sets than what you see here. But again, field to finish is an amazing way to expedite some of the drafting process, so that the little bit of extra work you do in the field goes a long way when you come back in. All right, so that goes over the basics of Linework code sets and concludes part 13. All right, this is going to be part 14, setting up a survey database. So for this exercise, we're going to learn how to open a survey database, and you're going to learn how to import a survey data set into a survey database. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to open up Drawing 14. We're going to go to the Survey tab under Toolspace, and then we're going to go over to Survey Databases, and you should have the option to expand it and see a database. Mine's isn't showing up, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and right click on Survey Databases. I'm going to create a new local survey database, and I'm going to just call it Survey. Then I'm going to close that real quick. So this is what you should be seeing. Survey databases, expand it, right click on survey to select that database, and then hit open for edit. Again, if you didn't have that in there, what we did was we right clicked survey database, we hit new local survey database, we created a survey database just called survey, and then we hit OK. That created this survey database, and what it should have done, or when you create one, it automatically opens it. So if we close our survey database, this simply shows that there is a database in here that can be utilized, and we have options for opening it, whether we want to open it for editing purposes or to be in read-only mode. We're going to open for edit. And then I'll get an amendment to the instructions to reflect all that information as well. So once we have our survey database opened and edit mode, we're going to come down to import events. We're going to go ahead and right click on import events, and then we're going to say import survey data. You're going to go ahead and right click on import events and select import survey data. And we're going to want to make sure we have our survey database selected as our target for where this is going to go. I'm going to hit next. We're going to set our data source type to a point file. And then we're going to use this green plus to add a file. You're going to need to navigate to wherever you have this data saved for the lab or for the lecture. Open up the survey folder, and then you're going to go ahead and pick that topo survey point file that we looked at in our last part. Go ahead and hit open. You can see here we now have that point file in here, and we see some of the data kind of populating initially. For our point file format, we're going to need to scroll down and pick PNEZD, comma delimited. What that is, it's going to be point number, northing, easting, elevation, and then description. And you can see down here as a preview of what that's going to look like. So our point file was a TXT file, but there are several different types of files that you can use, whether it's going to be text files, CSVs, shape files. There are a lot of different options out there. But yeah, so once we have that and we're seeing everything correctly here, we're going to hit next. Then to specify our network, we don't need to make any changes because this is all being done locally. So we're going to go ahead and click next on that menu. And then under import options, we're going to come down and we're going to make sure that we set the current figure prefix database to essentials. So let's scroll down to that. Change sample to essentials. And then we're going to set the process line work during the import value to yes. So that's going to be that field to finish those line work code sets that we were looking at in a previous part. Once you have that set, go ahead and make sure that our line work code set is also on Essentials, that our import event name is toposurvey.txt. We're going to want to make sure insert figure objects is set to yes, and insert survey points is set to no. You'll notice these are a lot of the settings that we set up when we created that Essentials line work code set. So once all of that is complete, go ahead and hit finish. And then in a matter of moments, you should start to see all of your data load. And you should have seen your line work and your points all load at once. As you can see here, for me, the points did not load. Simple way to resolve that: on that survey tab, open up the toposurvey.txt import event, go to survey points, right click on it, points, and then hit insert into drawing. And then with that, you now see your line work all generated as well as your points all processing. And with that, that's going to complete part 14, setting up a survey database. Alright, this will be the start of part 15, working with the survey figure prefix database. So go ahead and get drawing 15 opened up. The first thing that I'm going to want you to do is kind of zoom into this area here that I'm highlighting. So, kind of here, around these two points here, all these selected points. So once you're zoomed into that, we can see a little bit more detail of our drawing. So we can see we have some shrubbery, some trees, potential fences here, swales marked, and lots of ground points. So once you've explored that a little bit, come back over to the tool space. We're going to want to come over here to the figure prefix database. We're going to expand that. We're going to see Essentials. I'm going to right click and hit Manage Figure Prefix Database. Once you have that open in the Figure Prefix Database Manager, view the break, lot, line, layer, style, and site settings for fences, buildings, shrubs. So we have all of those in here: fences, buildings, trees, shrubs. We kind of see where they all exist and what their descriptions are going to look like. Go ahead and hit OK at that point once you've explored those. Then come back to the tool space, staying on the survey tab, and then choose Open for Edit if it's not already your survey database. Once it's opened for editing, then you're going to go ahead and go down to the Figures category section and view your options available here. So we see we can edit, update, insert into drawing, remove from the drawing, create break lines, make a field book file, make some adjustments with our points and whatnot, and so on and so forth. Zoom, pan, and refresh. Those are all different options that we have. So let's go ahead and choose Edit from our Points menu. Once we have that open, we're going to be able to view the properties available to edit in the Survey Points editor and the little panorama pop-up. And let's go ahead and click the green check mark so that we can close this now that we've reviewed our points. And now, similar to our other database files that we've worked with so far, we have a better understanding of what settings are adjustable, how we can adjust them, and what that's going to do for us in our survey projects. That's going to conclude part 15, work with the survey figure prefix database. Alright, important part coming up here. Part 16, work with the traverse editor. So let's go ahead and get drawing 16 opened up. Then on our home tab, create ground data panel, we're going to choose the traverse editor and the parcel drop down menu. So over here, parcel, excuse me, not the parcel drop down, but the traverse drop down, and then click traverse editor. That's going to open up the traverse editor underneath your workspace. Once that's opened, we're going to come down and we're going to pick the lines and arcs menu here. We can pick lines. We can see that we just have our simple variables for our line. And if we switch back to lines and arcs, we see we have all the additional variables to include lines and arcs. And then to get started on our occupied points, we're going to want to put in point 3001 as an occupied point. Go ahead and press enter when you're done with that. Then click the cell in the point line chord, angle column, into this cell here right next to it, and then go ahead and assign, and assign a backside angle of 25. Type that in, press enter. Then let's go ahead and set the side type in row 2 to line. There we go, side is already set as line. Then for the angle of our line, we're going to put in, and on the distance for that line, we're going to put 345.2. Press enter. For row 3, we're going to go ahead and put that to radial arc. Then for the radial arc settings, we'll do E, set the radius to 350, set the angle to 35 minutes, or 35 degrees, 1 minute, 56 seconds. You'll see that that didn't go through correctly. You have to do 35D, 35D, 24 minutes, 2 seconds. Press enter. And you'll see it highlighted red. There was a pre-populated length from when I put in the angle incorrectly. So let's set that length to 214. Now we see we don't have any more errors showing up here. And then for our last row, we have have one more line. And then we can go ahead and close this out. Now, whenever it's asked if you want to save, discard, or keep changes in the traverse editor, you can go ahead and hit discard. You see what we did was we created a replica of a pre-existing line here. Alright, so now what I want you to do is select the polyline that was created by that traverse editor. And then we're going to type E, enter, and that is going to delete it. Oh, it's got to be selected. So E activates the erase command, enter, now we see that line's gone. We're going to go back into the traverse editor this time, hit traverse editor, and then instead of creating our own, we're going to come down to this option here. It's going to be load from entry, so that's the cube with the plus signs and the arc around it. And what it's going to want you to do now when you're doing load from entry, it's going to want you to select a polyline in your workspace. So let's go ahead and select this, this polyline here, the magenta colored boundary in our drawing. So go ahead and click that, and we see that we have all of this, our traverse loaded into here automatically. And once we have that, we're going to want to go ahead and save our traverse. Now, because this hasn't been saved before, it's going to automatically load as a save as. Go ahead and give your traverse file a name. Then hit save. And be aware of where you're saving it. But now that you have essentially this traverse backed up, what we're going to do now is we're going to load the balance tool. So let's go ahead and click that. It's the scales right there in the traverse editor. And that's going to open up this here menu. Then we're going to come down to the bottom. We're going to go ahead and click Generate Report, and then put Current Adjustment to apply. And then it's going to ask us to where we want to save this. So we'll just save it again in our working folder. Hit Save. And now if we go into our File Explorer, we can navigate to that location. Didn't have it open. Give me one moment. Here we go. So I have that saved in here. Then we can find our adjustment report right here as an HTML document. Go ahead and open that up. Oh, of course mine's just gonna open like this. That's fine whether it opens just in, well, no, we don't want it here at all. Sorry, I need to open with into whatever browser it is that you prefer. So I'll just have Microsoft Edge for this. Oh, sorry. My screens are getting out of control here. But we can now see that we have our traverse adjustment report. We see, all the information that we would have had previously set up in our settings in there. We have our traverse name, we have our starting point, we have unchecked angular balances, we have a compass adjustment method applied, we know what our endpoint is and our point of closure as well. And this here is going to give us all of our original points with our deltas, showing us the adjustments that are needed, as well as a preview of what that sketch looks like. So go ahead and close the traverse adjustment report and close File Explorer. And then down here, since we're happy with what we've done, we're going to go ahead and click Done. And that's going to close the traverse editor and the report page. And that is going to conclude part 16. All right, welcome back for part 17, perform a map check analysis. In this part, we're going to learn how to perform map check analysis to get traverse and closure data. So go ahead and open up drawing 17, and then in the command line, you're going to type map check in all caps. Go ahead and press enter. That's going to open up our map check analysis window. So in this palette, go ahead and click New Map Check Tool. If you're running a version prior to 2025, you might just have a document sheet with an asterisk and a check mark. In Civil3D 2025, it'll be the globe one. So go ahead and click that. Then you're going to have a prompt to add a name. Go ahead and type boundary. Oh, mine seemed to go through. Sorry, put this out of the way. Once that's done, we're going to have to establish our point of beginning. So let's go ahead and go with the northwest corner of our drawing. So scroll in, make sure you're actually selecting that northwest corner. Then we're going to have to select a label. We're going to go ahead and zoom out a little bit. We're going to click on the parcel segment for the arc here. Oh, why won't it let me select it? There we go. Then go ahead and type F to set your label to flip. Then we're going to come through, we're going to select this next label, check that. Then when that's done, go ahead and come down, select your next label. It's going to be kind of so on and so forth, selecting each of our labels as we go around our traverse. And then once you've completed and gone all the way around, you're going to go ahead and press enter, and then that is going to close it out so that we're no longer trying to select another point. And then I pulled my Mapcheck window out. Once we have all 6 of our sides, we're going to want to output our view. You can see we have that green boundary now showing up. Once that's completed, go ahead and click the text option to add that here. It's going to ask you where you want that text to be inserted. Just pick a place in your drawing for now. If we zoom into that text, you can see here we have our data from our Mapcheck boundary. So it's going to show us the error in both distance and direction, for which parts it is, what kind of part it is, as well as the area and perimeter. Another option you can do instead of putting that text directly into your drawing is you can hit this clipboard, copy to clipboard option. You can do that, and then in the command window you can type in Notepad. That's going to prompt you for a file to edit. Go ahead and from there just press enter. That's going to open up an untitled Notepad file. You can go ahead and hit Control V or right click paste. And that's going to post your closure summary right there for you. And that is going to be the quickest way for you to do your traverse balances and adjustments. So you can go ahead and save this if you want to keep it for review for yourself, or close it off. And that's going to conclude part 17 of how to use Mapcheck to balance the traverse. Alright, this is the start of part 18, Introduction to Parcel Creation. In this part, we're going to learn about parcel creation, and you're going to learn the difference between automatic and manual part creation. So this will be pretty quick. Go ahead and open up Drawing 18 if you haven't already. On the Home tab, go to the Create Design panel, and then we're going to go to the Parcel drop-down menu and click Parcel Creation Tools. You'll have this toolbar open up here. So you'll see right here we have options for manual parcel creation tools. Those are going to be the create parcel, lines, arcs, and draw tangent to tangent with no curve options. And that's going to be everything that you need for manual creation. Now we can review the 3 create tools right here as well if you hit this drop down menu. And then you're going to see we have options for slide lines, to create them, to edit them, to create and edit swing lines, as well as freeform creates. So we can also expand this toolbar more so that we're able to review the extended parameters that are available for automatic creation. This is going to be all of our essentially default settings when anything automatic is going on. So again, what this is our parcel creation tools. We have our manual options to draw them out, or we can use the create options to automatically create them by slide lines, swing lines, or freeforms. And that concludes part 18. Like I said, real quick. Alright, well, part 18 might have only taken us 2 minutes to go over, but part 19 is going to be actually creating parcels by layout. So here we're going to learn how to do manual creation of our parcels. So go ahead and open up drawing 19. And again, like we just went over in part 18, we're going to go to create design, parcel, and then create parcel tools or parcel creation tools. We can go ahead and close that expanded parameter. And then we're going to hit the add fixed line 2 points tool. So that's going to open up our create parcels layout window. And we're going to go ahead and create a new site here. So for this site, we're going to give it the name development. And the name is irrelevant. I mean, you call it whatever you need for your project. But go ahead and do that. Click OK. We see our site is now set to development. Then we're going to go ahead and hit OK for our default naming. Then we're going to come back. We're going to ensure that our fixed line 2 points is still selected. And what we're going to do is we're going to scroll to this northeast corner. We're going to select that as our first point. And then come down to the southeast corner. Select that as our second point. Once that's done, we're going to switch over and we're going to do a curve. We want to make sure we do fixed curve 3 point. So let's take our previous endpoint, click that. And we're going to select the midpoint of this curve here. And then we want to find the endpoint, click that. Then we'll switch back to fixed line, click back on the previous endpoint, come to here, then repeat the process, click there again, come to the top, and close it out. Then our last point, one more 3 point curve. Again, click there, find that midpoint, make sure you're on the right line. There we go. And the endpoint, back to a fixed line. Click there, and our final point, right where we started. And like with a lot of our other commands, once we're done, we can go ahead and enter, and that is going to close out that tool. So we should have a new label right here showing our parcel. Here it is, property 1. Oh. Sorry, I had a tool open. So if we select that label, we now see we have in blue highlighted our new manually created parcel. So that's a process that you can do over and over and over again depending on your drawing or your project to manually create each of your parcels. Alright, for this next part, I'm sure you can guess we're going to be creating parcels from objects. So we've already gone over how to explore the parcel toolbars. We've looked at manually creating parcels, and now we're going to create parcels directly from objects. So if you haven't already, go ahead and open up drawing 20. And then on the Home tab under Layers, you're going to go ahead and click the drop-down menu for our layers. And then click the snowflake for the thaw, or to thaw the layers, cprop lots and cprop row. So that's going to be down here, lots and row. And you're going to see that opened up or turned on those layers, activated them for us. Then, like we did before, we're going to go to Parcel, that Parcel drop down from Create, but instead of going straight to our parcel creation tools, we're going to create parcels from objects. So go ahead and click that. And you'll see our tool down here is open, and it's going to be asking us to select lines, arcs, or polylines to convert into parcels. So first thing we'll do is we'll select this blue line, and then we'll select this yellow polyline, and then we're going to go ahead and press enter. And that's going to open up our create parcels from objects window. And then at this time we can review what we're doing. We see we're putting in our development site. The parcel style is going to be a basic property. We have other options here, but we'll leave it as the defaults for now. We see the layers that we have. One moment. And again, our label styles are all going to stay the same as well. If there are any existing entities, they're going to be erased. At that point, once we've reviewed all of that, we can go ahead and click OK. And you can see here, we immediately get property 2 and property 3 created within property 1. So this is going to help if you have different types of ownership within a certain parcel. It's going to help you identify, where's a right-of-way, or if it's a subdivision, anything like that. It'll be a lot faster to automatically generate these parcels. And that's how you can create parcels from existing objects. Again, because they're objects, these can be default AutoCAD objects or blocks that you bring in time and time and time again. Imagine it's something like condos where ownership varies between the building owners and the tenants. Again, creating these parcels directly from objects is going to expedite a lot of your CAD work. All right, that completes part 20. Thank you.